hello, and welcome back to episode 106 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy. As always, we have the NFL playoffs this weekend. We have another sneak preview at the college football playoff championship game. We have some NBA and some college basketball and even some MLB news. I know you're excited for that, Brett. We're going to get to it in a little bit, but let's talk about how we did last episode in episode 105. We each went 1-2. I am 4-5 on the season so far, or on the year of 2021, I should say, not season. But I cannot seem to get a pick of the pod win. My one win was Celtics money line, and my pick of the pod was Hawks -5.5, and they lost outright to the Knicks.
Yeah. Well, you kind of said go fade me, and so maybe you gave some people some winners, Higgins, so you could take some solstice in that.
I hope so, but I mean the line the morning after we recorded this, Hawks were 7-point favorites, so I think people actually listened to me.
Gotta love it. That's perfect. Oh well, I went 1-2 also, Higgins, but I hit my Levy lock for the second time. I'm gonna use your word. This season, I
Well, I'm
hit
proud of you. I'm proud of you. Good job. Someone's got to hit it.
Yeah, well, it's a long season or year, so we got plenty of time left for you to get hot.
Plenty of days left to turn that record back around. It's just the beginning. 0-2, 2-0. Lots can happen with that. Let's get into Beginner's Boulevard, though. A unique term we haven't talked about ever on Next Best Bet. Chasing steam. Now, this was a term that you found, Brett.
Yeah, and it's just following an odd change because you believe that the bettors may know something that you may not. It's like, you tail or follow along because you're like, why'd this line move? That seems odd. I guess that's the side I want to be on. This could also be known as following the money, Higgins, so maybe you've heard it that way.
Yeah, it's the other side of the coin for contrarian betting, where a contrarian will go against what the public's doing. They think the public will be wrong most times and bet on the short side of the money. Chasing the steam means going on to the side that everybody's on, or if a line is moving and you're not quite sure why, you follow it because maybe some people have some early info, and you're just trying to catch a line while it's still good.
Yeah, you're just following the money.
Speaking of catching something while it's still good, it's a big news day for the Mets on Thursday, excuse me. We typically record on Wednesday, that's why I was going to say that. We're recording this on a Thursday night, but the Mets, Steve Cohen, the new owner, he said he was going to try to deliver for you guys, and he made a blockbuster trade with the new front office that he's put together. The Mets are going to get Carlos Carrasco and Francisco Lindor. As a Mets fan, Brett, you have to be happy with this.
Oh man, this is a great day. I mean, I've started clearing out space for the World Series trophy on the bookshelf. Maybe you need to move over some room for an MVP trophy, Higgins. But yeah, we got a bona fide pitcher for our rotation and arguably a top 15 player in the sport. He had a down year last season, but Francisco Lindor at 27 years old is still in his prime, Higgins. That's a guy I'm very excited to be on my baseball team.
And the Mets didn't have to give up some of their greatest prospects in this trade either. In fact, Sandy Alderson thanked the Cleveland franchise for participating in this trade with them at the end of his hour-long press conference on Thursday. And whenever so soon after a trade you have one side thanking the other side for a trade, it's almost clear already who the winner is in this to me. I mean, you're getting some already bona fide certain MLB talent, and you gave up minimal assets of potential prospects that who knows if they're ever going to actually become MLB talents. Fantastic trade in my eyes for the New York Mets, and that's why they jumped in the Oregon sportsbook at least all the way up to the 7th favorite to win the World Series now at plus 1,400. And now, Brett, do you think there's still some room for that to be some value, or Mets add a few other players and maybe bump into the top 5?
I mean, they got to extend Lindor now, so That's a lot of money you're you're putting into one player. So I don't know if Springer or Bauer's still in the Bauer's probably not in the plans at all anymore, but I guess it's possible they could still add Springer, but I wouldn't expect it at this point because that would be like almost $500 million, $450 million invested in two players. So that's a lot of money, Higgins. But I think you got to be happy with the way the offseason's gone so far. You could probably add another minor piece, but I think this is how the team's going to look moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting move for the Mets. May make them the favorite in the NL East. The odds aren't showing that right now yet. Atlanta is plus 1,000 outright for the World Series with the Mets at plus 1,400. Oregon isn't offering division lines yet, but in the pennant, the Braves lead the Mets as well. I think this could be a very interesting race between those two teams, though. Kind of like back in the day when the Mets and the Braves coming out of the 90s and the Mets in the early 2000s had an interesting rivalry going on.
Yeah, well, Mets Brave. The NL East is always fun, Higgins. I think there's some good teams. I think maybe Philly takes a step back. Maybe Washington takes a step back. Maybe the Mets take a step forward. So we'll see. But yeah, Braves probably are the best team. Like I think the odds probably are right. I probably wouldn't fade the Braves yet.
Well, I think that's about enough previewing of an MLB season that's not going to start for quite a few months still. So let's talk about a season that's already underway and move on to the NBA because we have some games going on Friday where we have 10 games going on Friday. Only 3 games for us to talk about, Brett, in Thursday night recording because there aren't a lot of lines out right now. But we have the Phoenix Suns versus Detroit Pistons, Charlotte Hornets versus New Orleans Pelicans, and the Orlando Magic versus the Houston Rockets. Now, you and I are on a different game in each of these, so let's talk about the one that we're not on. The Charlotte Hornets versus the New Orleans Pelicans. You got LaMelo Ball and Zion Williamson, two of the biggest names out of the two recent draft classes. So, what's that matchup going to be like, you think?
You missed the biggest story, Higgins.
What I miss?
Lamelo versus Lonzo.
Oh, I
And
don't care about
their
that. They've played
first
hundreds of
ever
times before.
their first NBA matchup. That's pretty cool. I don't know. I think that's the story, but you're right. LaMelo Zion, sure. That one's exciting too.
You're right. That's obviously more of the story. The brother versus brother. That's gonna be cool. Um, Lamelo and Lonzo obviously have a lot of history playing against each other at their house and playing with each other at high school, even and everything like that. I am just very interested in the Lamelo Zion uh, showcase in a sense, just because they were such big names for their draft classes. So there's going to be a winner and a loser in that sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of hype for both of them coming out of high school, but I I don't know if that necessarily plays into this game. I'd lean New Orleans -6, but I'm not really gonna bet it. I think I'll just enjoy watching it, Higgins, because of like what you said and what I said, like Lamelo versus Lonzo, Lamelo and Zion on the court. I love my guy Devonte Graham. I hope he starts turning around the season a little bit. So there's lots of reasons to tune into this one.
Now, there's no player props yet in Oregon for that game. However, I'd be very interested to see what the Ball brothers player prop lines are at, and maybe try to put something together for that. If you work with a book that does a same game parlay, maybe make something fun for a ball parlay. That could be interesting. But let's talk about the games that we're gonna get on, Brett. This Phoenix Suns versus Detroit Pistons game. I mean, I almost said the Detroit Lions because that's how bad the Pistons have been this year. They're 1-7 to start the season. They're okay against the spread at 4-3, but they're hosting a team that's 6-2 on the season, 6-2 against the spread. Phoenix has looked really good to start this season. I think Chris Paul was a great addition for them to trade for to kind of add some senior leadership to that team and help make sure everyone's focused. But Aiton getting a year under his belt has really helped. Booker is just a phenomenal talent for that team, and 6.5 points to me does not seem like it's too big of a spread. So I'm going to take the 6.5 points. I'm going to ride with the team that's better against the spread and take the Suns, who overall have just started better this season and have gotten some better quality wins, like their most recent one against the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Wood, who's now gone on to Houston, he's getting a lot of hype. But Jeremy Grant, who's coming to replace him on Detroit's played pretty well. Sadiq Bey played really well in his last game. So I'm interested to see if Detroit's figuring out these new rotations. But I think you're right in this spot here, Higgins. I like Phoenix minus 6.5. I'm with you. I'm staying off of it because you're on it, and I gotta respect the pillars. And I also may know something later in the podcast, so I might actually bet the other side. But I like Phoenix in this spot.
Well, you might bet the other side, but let's talk about some bankroll management because you're not on a game once. You're on the Orlando Houston game twice.
Well, I so Brooklyn played the Sixers tonight without their two superstars, uh, KD and Kyrie, right? And the Sixers are the best team in the NBA currently, and they beat them, and that was on Thursday night. So I'm coming in with the same logic that Orlando just lost Markel Fultz, which is a huge loss for them. He tore his ACL. It's very unfortunate for him. I look forward to seeing him come back. I know he'll come back. He'll rehab. He'll do his best to get back as strong as ever. But it's an opportunity for the next guys to step up. And in the NBA, they usually do in that first game. Like, it just we saw it with Brooklyn and the Sixers, and I'm taking that same logic and I'm applying it to Houston, Orlando, and I'm getting 5.5 points with the Magic, and I'm gonna take the Magic on the spread, Higgins, and I'm gonna take an extra half unit and bet it on Orlando plus 198, basically plus 200, and try and get a second unit out of that game. I'm gonna see if maybe they can hit that plus 5.5 and win on the money line.
Hey, that would be a nice little boost for you to your units so far on the year. You're at plus, or no, you're at minus 0.4 units so far. So double dipping in that game could potentially send you a nice boost above into the positive.
Yeah, no, it would be good. And it's something I feel strong about that these guys on the bench, they're NBA players too. Let's not forget that.
Yes, that is absolutely a fair point. They have earned their right to be in the NBA, and that means that they can play the game of basketball rather well.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying. Just keep it close. And maybe, get lucky at the end.
Well, a game that also might stay close, we're going to jump to the college basketball route now, is Purdue at Michigan State. Now, there weren't a lot of Friday games that jumped off the slate for you or I, Brett, and neither of us are going to be on this game, partly because how much Michigan State has burnt each of us and basically everyone. But that would make you want to think to bet Purdue, except for the fact that Purdue has burnt basically everyone. Purdue's 3-7-2 against the spread. Michigan State is 3-8 against the spread. Both these teams have winning records on the season and can't cover. Someone has to, though, because the spread's 4.5. There's a hook.
You know what? This signals to me, Higgins, that Purdue's going to find a way to lose by 4.5.
The ball's going to get wedged.
I don't know what's gonna happen to create a half point in basketball, but they're gonna find a way on Friday night here.
Well, that would be a very, very interesting way to end the game, and that would definitely probably make a money line magic if there was a half point scored in a game. But Brett, let's talk about a money line magic that hits a little closer to home. On Wednesday,
Oof.
Syracuse hosted Pittsburgh. It was Syracuse's first game back in 18 days since shutting down the program because of the coronavirus over the winter holidays, and Syracuse came out hotter than I think anyone really expected after that long hiatus. Had an 18-point lead early in the first half, 14-point lead at halftime, but obviously that doesn't maintain all the way through, or else it wouldn't be Moneyline Magic. That wouldn't be any fun, right, Brett?
No, 18 days, 18-point lead, disappeared quick.
Yes, and it's a team against a pretty good team that they loathe. An ACC foe, Pittsburgh Panthers, that they have had some trouble with, whether it be in Pittsburgh or Syracuse. So Syracuse will get that lead back up to 16 with 11 minutes left in the second half, but Pittsburgh would slowly start chipping away at it, and they'd slowly build it all the way back to where they are tied 57 to 57 with 152 left in the game. Now, this is the first time that Syracuse hasn't led the game because Syracuse scored the first points in the game and they held the lead all the way until they were tied with less than 2 minutes left in the game. And then it just becomes an all-out brawl between these two.
Yeah, I mean, this was tough, Higgins. This was such a good spot for Syracuse. We had beaten these guys once. Champagne's out for Pitt, and you just see it slipping away, and like you just felt it. You really felt it, Higgins. It was. We were getting texts like, "Oh, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad," and the good text never came, Higgins.
Yes, they did not. I mean, Xavier tied that game with an Pittsburgh tied that game with an Xavier Johnson three-pointer. Cuse would make a three right after to take the lead right back. And then a little bit of back and forth. Pitt would end up making a mid-range jumper to go down by one with 1 minute to go. And then to your point, Brett, it got sloppy and it got hard and there were no points scored for 52 seconds. Until 8 seconds left in the game, there were no points scored. It was still a 60 to 59 game, and then until Audis Tooney made a putback with 8 seconds left in the game, and it gives Pittsburgh their first lead of the night. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, Tony's a good player, but that one hurts, Higgins. That one stings. Tough one for us.
And then senior leadership, or upperclassmen leadership, Dolajai turns the ball over, so Syracuse has to foul. Xavier Johnson makes both free throws, and Pittsburgh wins by 3 in a game that Syracuse was a double-digit favorite in the sports books and had an 18-point lead early on in the game and a 16-point lead in halftime. What is going on?
Yeah,
This was something else.
I mean, that's a tough one, Higgins. And to think, like, you blow it and you still have that chance and then you turn it over again. Like, dude, they just couldn't get out of their own way in this one. Hopefully, too many people weren't burned, though, because if you've watched Syracuse and Pitt play before, the games are close. So a double digit Syracuse spread, I would have automatically just been on Pitt and been like, Syracuse may win, but they're not winning by more than 6. Like, I've seen these teams play for, you know, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean they played in the Big East before they went to the ACC. There's a lot of history there between those two teams, and you're right. A double-digit spread in either favor would probably raise a red flag for me. Except I have a very hard time betting against a team that I root for, so I would not have been on Pittsburgh. However, maybe I would have tried to buy some Syracuse gear to try to add some support and add some fanmanship to it. And if you were to do that, today's episode is brought to you by Fanatics. Fanatics is the world's largest collection of official fan gear from all the teams, leagues, and players you love. If you enjoy our show and are looking to buy a new jersey, sweatshirt, or hat, you can support us by going to podgo.co/fanatics and getting 25% off your next order. That's podgo.co/fanatics. Fanatics officially licensed everything. And Brett, those Syracuse jerseys, like we said before, they look nice, but I don't know if I can buy it after a collapse like that.
Yeah, it's a tough time to buy a Syracuse jersey. Great time to buy a Francisco Lindor jersey, Higgins.
Absolutely, I would be putting in an order before those get back ordered because I imagine there's going to be a bit of a wait time as those orders come flooding in with all those Met fans.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be quite a few Frankie Lindor jerseys ordered before spring training.
Sure, there's also going to be plenty of potential first round NFL picks that are going to turn into some jersey orders, and that is what's going to transition us into the college football playoff preview that I want to talk about with this Ohio State versus Alabama game. Now, we gave you the championship odds in our last episode, and to be honest, they really haven't changed that much. Bama's still a 7.5 point favorite. The over under is still at 74.5. However, on the money line, Bama received another 10 points. So now it's minus 290 and plus, or no, sorry, now it's minus 300 with OSU plus 235, and it was previously minus 290 with OSU plus 225. Now, Brett, these lines haven't changed so much, but has your mind changed at all in terms of where you might find yourself on this game?
No, I'm kind of still leaning the OSU side. I know you were leaning Bama to open up. I I like to take the dogs in these big games. I don't know. I feel like they're talented too, and everyone's counting them out, and maybe there's a little extra motivation there. Also, Justin Fields hopefully is going to be my quarterback for the next, 15, 20 years. So why not back him early?
I am still leaning Bama to what you just said. Minus 7.5, though. I would really like to see that get down to 7, maybe even to 6.5. So I'm still waiting on that. This game isn't till Monday, so our official picks will probably be in next episode, anyways, when those player props and other fun bets also come out with this game. But I look at Bama's offense, and other than the quarterback position, I think Bama's basically better at every single spot. Yes, Justin Fields is better than Mac Jones. Quarterback's a very important role on the football field, but you got Olave, you got Smith, I'll take Smith. You got Harris, you got Sermon, I'll take Harris. I mean, you got some big playmakers on both sides. This over under, I think, might even be accurate with how many points could be scored in this fiesta of a game, but I don't know if I think it's going to be a more than one touchdown game. So I'm staying off of Bama minus 7.5 to hope that it falls under 7. Because if not, maybe I find myself on Ohio State like you.
Well, the movement's telling you it's going the wrong way, Higgins. So we need some whales to come in and turn that ship for you.
Hey, in the semifinals, there was a big whale that came in for OSU that put, what, a $1.3 million bet on Ohio State's spread?
Okay, so there you go. Come on, better come back.
Come on back now. But we do have some very big NFL playoff games, Brett. I mean, we got Saturday games, we got some Sunday games again, and we even have 7 seeds. We have only one team in each conference getting a bye this year. The 2 plays the 7, the 3 plays the 6, and the 4 plays the 5. Very, very interesting in a already very, very strange and odd year.
Well, everyone knows 7 seeds are in the playoffs. They're just usually an eighth seed. But yeah, we do have some 7 seeds. The Indianapolis Colts travel to Buffalo, beautiful sunny Buffalo in January. Can't imagine a more beautiful destination to travel to. But no, it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be windy. Maybe even a little snowy. Higgins, I don't know. But Buffalo's minus 6.5 here. And I'm just betting against Philip Rivers in the playoffs. I know that Indianapolis's defense is good, and I know that they've been able to put up some points this year, but Philip Rivers does not win playoff games. And I'm just honestly sticking with that trend and saying Buffalo wins their first playoff game in a long, long time. And they take care of business and they cover the spread at home. They're going to have fans there, Higgins. So I
About
think it's just going to,
6,500.
yeah, but fans in the
Still fans, still
stands.
fans,
Yeah.
still
And I
fans.
think, not that those fans are going to make the biggest difference in the world, but it's going to be added energy in the stadium that they haven't felt all year. And it's just going to be a great day in Buffalo.
Okay, so we got 6,500 fans. What's the over under on the amount of tables broken?
6,500.
Okay. You don't think there's going to be anyone that potentially brings two tables?
Well, that's the over.
That's the over.
That's the over.
I like your bet, Brett. I like Buffalo minus 6.5. You mentioned the Pillars earlier and staying off a bet for me with the Suns. That's kind of what I'm doing here with you. I think Buffalo wins this game. I think they should cover. Interesting point about Philip Rivers, though. I'll be very curious to see if that trend of him not winning playoff games does follow him to Indianapolis, because before he got that mantra, that was Marty Schottenheimer's mantra with the Chargers. The Chargers couldn't win playoff games. Marty Schottenheimer couldn't win playoff games. It was the coach's fault. And then Philip Rivers came in, Marty Schottenheimer ended up leaving, and Philip Rivers still couldn't win a playoff game. And I assumed it was just the Chargers. San Diego just wasn't allowed to win a playoff game. Maybe now that he has changed cities, I mean, even though they changed last year, they didn't get a playoff chance last year. This year, Indianapolis, who knows? But I think Buffalo is just the better team. I think, like we said a few times this year, I think Buffalo has the best chance at potentially taking on Kansas City and being the other team that represents the AFC in the Super Bowl. But I think there's another AFC team that might get some attention, and at least from me is who I'm going to be rooting for. But I'm going to get to them in a little bit because that game's on Sunday. I do want to talk about the two NFC games on Saturday, though, Brett, because I will be on both of them. The NFC West game, Rams at Seahawks. The Rams have just had too many questions this season. I mean, Jared Goff and the offense, they have been up, they've been down, they've been left, they've been right, they've gone back a lot, they've come forward, kinda. The defense, there's all the pieces on the defense to be a championship defense. The saying is, defense wins championships, but this Rams defense has not played to the caliber that we saw them at when they went to the Super Bowl and faced against the Patriots and got their butts kicked. So, I'm going with the seniority of Russell Wilson. I'm going with that offense that has been rather consistent with Lockett, Moore, and Metcalf in the receiving core. They've just been fantastic tools for Russell Wilson, and I'm just hoping that the formerly known Legion of Boom can hold up against the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm going to take Seattle -3 here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in this one. It's so odd, the Rams quarterback situation, like the non-committal to Goff and what's going to happen there. I can't back the Rams in that one. So if anything, I'm going to lean Seattle. You're on Seattle, so you feel a little bit stronger than I do, but that's definitely the way to. I can only say lean because I have no money on this game right now.
Yes, absolutely. And Seattle did most recently beat the Rams. Week 2, they won 20-9. And then I guess they did lose in week 9, week 10, 23-16, but that was in Los Angeles. This game's in Seattle. They won when the game was in Seattle, so we'll see. An interesting game that I am going to pay a lot of attention to as a Giants fan that loves to talk about Tom Brady in the playoffs. Tom Brady and the Bucks, the first time Tom Brady has ever been a wild card seed, is traveling to Washington. Washington, the NFC East debacle that it was. They are the ones that will get to represent the NFC East, and they get a home game out of it. Tom Brady has to travel there, and I'm not so confident that Washington's going to necessarily win this. I do love the value of the money line, though, at plus 300 here, so that's why I'm going to be on the money line at plus 300, because if you look at the strong points of this Washington team, it's the defensive line. It's Chase Young and it's Montez Sweat, the two ends. And you look at when Tom Brady has struggled in the playoffs, it's when there is a really strong defensive line, especially when it's coming from the exterior, when it's coming around the tackles. That's when he has struggled in the playoffs against defenses. So Tom Brady, at the age that he is, that offense has gone up and down. They've struggled early. They had lots of injuries. They're kind of all on the same page now. They should win this game. That's why they're 7.5-point favorites. But everything about this to me, and I've been saying it for the weeks leading up to the playoffs, says no one should want to go play the NFC East champion in the playoffs because I don't think your locker room's going to take it seriously. Would you? An 11-5 team coming in to
Yeah,
play a team that's 6-10,
yeah, I take it
7-9?
seriously. It's a playoff game. I don't want to go home, but I don't. I mean, I guess other than that last little point, I was on board. I think it's definitely a strength versus strength game, where it's the Bucks offense is their strength and the Washington football team defense is their strength. Now the Washington football team's never missed the playoffs, Higgins. So that's big news.
The Washington football team has never missed the playoffs. This is true. That is a fact.
That is a
So
fact.
does that delay on us finding out when Washington has an actual new mascot name, or does football team maybe just
It
become their?
sticks. Well, I mean, they were talking about it potentially coming back anyway. So I think now that they've made the playoffs, it definitely sticks. If they win this game, it's coming back for at least 2 years.
I think you kind of have to. I mean, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious, to quote my friend Michael Scott.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let's move
Well,
on to some Sunday action, though. What do you say about that, Bricks? We got a good matchup that's a rematch from last year's playoffs with the Ravens and the Titans.
yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you, Higgins. I think anything can happen in any given game, right? So, like any individual game, I think anything can happen. I think when you get to series, like in basketball and hockey, it's much harder for the underdog to advance because they have to do it 4 times. But one time, anything can happen. So, you're plus 300 on Washington. I'm going to be plus 154 on Tennessee on the money line because, like you, anything can happen. I think Tennessee's a good football team. They actually beat Baltimore last year in the playoffs. Derrick Henry had what's probably now his second most famous stiff arm. The one on Josh Norman, I think, surpassed that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just known for his stiff arm at this point. He's built up quite the highlight reel of just throwing people to the ground.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of his more famous stiff arms last year in the postseason. But Lamar Jackson struggles in big games, not just playoff games, Higgins, but just big games in general. Like anytime I feel like we're like, wow, this is a huge game for the Ravens. They could really prove that they're among the elite. They don't. And they need a win on Sunday, and I'm not sure I trust the Ravens to come through, but I'll back Tennessee as home dogs for sure.
So last year, these two faced off in the first round of the playoffs, and Tennessee won 28-12. And I see this a little bit as a revenge game for Baltimore, especially since they were also on each other's regular season schedule this year, and Tennessee won that game as well by using the same strategy that they used in containing Lamar Jackson as they used last postseason. So Harbaugh and Jackson better have come up with a game plan that is different than their normal one because Tennessee has been able to read right through it in the past 2 times that they've played. But Lamar Jackson also thrives on the unexpected parts of the play. Once the play breaks down, what is everyone going to do? He's very good at reading that open field. Tennessee's been very good at containing him from reading that open field. Baltimore -3. I don't like that they're necessarily the favorites because since Tennessee's won the 2 most recent games, I feel like they should necessarily be the underdogs in a sense. So I'm staying away from that game right now, but I'm siding with Baltimore at least in terms of fanmanship when I'll be watching that game probably.
All right. Well, good luck to you and your fanmanship. But let's hop to one more game, Higgins. Browns Steelers. Browns battling all the COVID issues. Their coach isn't going to be there on Sunday. They have to travel to Pittsburgh. They're going to be missing players, coaches. I already mentioned their head coach. But you have a pick in this one. I have a pick in this one. So we clearly like the game.
Well, you mentioned the COVID issues and that they're traveling. Are they going to be drag racing from Cleveland to Pittsburgh? Did you Did you think about that? They
I
may be able to make some good time.
They might be able to. That was good, Higgins. I like that because that story kind of flew under the radar a little bit this week.
Well, because his coach tested positive for coronavirus, there was a more pressing Brown story that kind of came out, and then there were some other things happening in the world that drowned out a lot of sports news, and is part of why we're recording today instead of yesterday. But Cleveland plus 5.5. I'm going to be on Cleveland on the spread, and to be honest, I'll probably find myself on them for the money line as well. And I'm not going to give you analytics and data with this pick, so if that's what you're looking for, just fade me with it. I am saying that Cleveland is, since 2000 up until this season, Cleveland is probably the best team to represent what 2020 was for a majority of Americans. Terrible. They were horrible. In 19 seasons, they hadn't reached 100 total wins as a franchise. It was terrible. They had 2 winning seasons in total. This season, they went 11-5. Optimism, hope. That's what everyone wants from 2021. So I am hitching my loyalty to the Cleveland Browns bandwagon, hoping that the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl. I'm not taking the future, but I am taking them in this game. Ben Roethlisberger should retire after this game. His career is done. The Browns are going to win this game on the road to the Super Bowl. I don't know how they're going to beat the Chiefs. I don't worry about that this week. I'll come up with some justification down the road if that happens.
God bless Higgins. That was amazing. Good luck. Oh man. Well, you're
I hope I
taking
inspired you a little bit.
you're taking the points. You're betting against the odds. I mean, you said money line in there a few times, like twice, I think. The first time I was like, "Oh wow, he must have gotten a little carried away," and then he said it again, and I was like, "Oh man, he's really sticking his guns to that."
I'm not making my money line a podcast pick. I'll be very clear with that. My spread of
uh,
plus 5.5 is my podcast pick. I would
I
not be
like that.
surprised if by Sunday, though, I also find myself on money line. Is what I'm saying.
I respect it, Higgins. You're just rooting hard.
Yes.
I hate to put a little damper on your parade. I don't think Cleveland's going to score very much in this one. They're missing a lot. This is tough circumstances. I also think Pittsburgh probably got to hide a lot of their playbook a week ago, while Cleveland needed that game and needed all those points. And it was a competitive game down the stretch. And they may have had to show a little bit more than they wanted to show a week ago against Pittsburgh. So, I just think the under in this one at 47.5, it's just an uphill battle for Cleveland this week, and I don't know that Pittsburgh's gonna like blow them out. So again, I don't know where I would go on the sides, but the under, it just feels like this one's gonna be low scoring here.
Well, there you go. If you want the logical pick, Brett probably gave you the best reasoning then. But if you want a good story,
The story.
the story is bet on the Browns with Jake Higgins right here.
Fuck it. Money line Browns. We're all in. Oh, honey, the house is on the Browns.
We might be homeless. We'll see.
Yeah, but
But
the story. But the story.
but the story. The story of how we got homeless. Let's
Well,
jump into our Levy Lock and pick of the pod, or the fade of the pod as it's become, because I'm not good with mine. I lost again last week or
well,
last episode.
I'll get mine out of the way really quick so we can get to the more important one. But I'm gonna mention it again. The Browns Steelers over under 47.5. The Browns COVID issues, drag racing issues, had to show more of their playbook against the Steelers a week ago. So I'm just saying the under in this one. It feels like an under.
Okay, okay. And I am taking this all the way back to the very beginning of our podcast where we were talking about the NBA. My pick of the pod is going to be Phoenix minus 6.5 because, like I said, they're 6-2 on the season, 6-2 against the spread. Detroit Pistons, they are 1-7 against the season, only 4-3 against the spread. I think the Suns have they found the chemistry early by bringing in that veteran leadership of Chris Paul, and I think it's really starting to show for them. And they're putting together a good early run, and why mess with a good thing?
Why mess with a good thing?
Well, there you have it. Probably bet Pistons because I just told you to bet the Suns pick of the pod. But there you have it. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at NBB Pod. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Next Best Bet and the Next Best Bet Facebook and YouTube channels, where we will be posting videos of these episodes in case you listen to them on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to your podcast. We also do these on videos, and there will be clips individually per sport that we will be putting out on those social media platforms, as well as some picks that we have in between episode recordings that we do, whether it be a Saturday pick or something that we'll post on our Instagram story or in a tweet or something. There will be some other picks that we give out. But this has been episode 106 of The Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again after the weekend. Happy betting. Let's go Browns.